Hey Geeks! Welcome to another GEEKSIDERS review. This time we're reviewing The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 16, titled The First Day of the Rest of Your Life.
If you haven't seen this episode yet, you're going to want to skip this video and come back later because everything we say from this point forward is going to be a spoiler.
Alright, let's just jump right into it. This episode was, out of all of The Walking Dead, if they ever needed to stick the landing on an episode, this was the one, and I really feel like they did. I think this was definitely the best episode of Season 7, and it might be the best season finale of the entire series.
It leagues above last season, at least.
One thing they did do that I'm not quite sure about is the non-linear storytelling in this episode, which The Walking Dead does better than most other shows.
Yeah.
This episode, it seemed a little too much, though, because we get like a flash forward of Sasha in the coffin, and she's sweating, and then she presumably dies. She at least passes out. I think she dies.
Yeah, I think she dies, and then it just kind of goes back, or like her forward flashes go backwards in time, and then her backward flashes go forward in time, and it was just, it was a bit much.
It started with a flash forward, and then it flashed back to a scene with Abraham on the day that they had to go to the hilltop to help Maggie, and then it like goes to the present where most of the episode takes place, and so it was a little, not really that hard to keep up with the timeline. It was just a little more abstract than what you ordinarily get from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But once you got used to it, and you get like, okay, this is when we are, then it was pretty easy to keep up with. So this episode was also super action-packed, and in a twist that I didn't see coming, but I should have, but you...
Yeah, that I wouldn't have seen coming had it not been spoiled for me on Facebook. And not like I'm a dummy and went on Facebook after The Walking Dead and didn't expect to find spoilers. No, somebody messaged me the spoiler. So that was awesome.
But the Scavengers, they betrayed Rick's army, and I should have seen that coming.
Yeah, like in hindsight, it seems so obvious.
Yeah, but we didn't see it coming, and it's like, holy crap, Jadis and company just totally betrayed Rick. That's a twist I should have saw coming and didn't.
Yeah.
And kudos for The Walking Dead, because most television is really easily predictable.
Yeah.
And The Walking Dead did a great job in this episode in making something that, I should have saw coming and then I didn't. And what I liked best about this sequence, and I think you'll agree with me, is after Sasha burst out of the coffin and Negan fell off of the truck, Carl was the first one to react.
Carl
and I love that.
Instigated the war! And that's like my favorite part of this episode, is that finally, like, Carl's such a cool character in the comic book, and it's about time his TV counterpart has stepped up.
I feel like they're lagging a little behind in the show into catching up into the badassedness of Carl of the comic, and this episode went a long way toward that. Even to when Negan had him and Rick down on their knees, and Negan's getting ready to bash Carl's head in, and Carl's just like, "You're not gonna win." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then Rick, I mean, he's like, do it right in front of me. Take my hands. I'm gonna kill you. And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!"
Like, I don't care what you do. I'm gonna murder you.
Yeah. Another awesome part of this episode, Shiva.
Oh my God.
The Shiva graphic, the Shiva effect was damn near perfect, and I was really worried about this whenever, whenever it was going to come time for Shiva to actually fight and be in like an action sequence. It's like, man, that deer was so bad, it made me really worry about Shiva.
Yeah.
But man, the effect looked really good.
Yeah, it looked like an actual tiger, not a CG tiger. It looked like a real tiger going after those scavengers.
Yeah. And even one of our friends who plays one of the scavengers, she got a comment on her Facebook page about said something like, "How close were you to the tiger?" And she's like, "Dude, there wasn't a tiger."
Yeah, she was like, it was a dude in a blue morph suit. And then she posted a picture from the behind the scenes video, and it's a dude in a blue morph suit. And it kind of looks hilarious, but I love it. There's a part in the comics that we were really wondering how they were going to do, because they kind of already did it for Fear the Walking Dead, and that is basically Sasha's part. And without spoiling the comics for anybody who hasn't really read them, we really, really like how they remixed it, and we really like that it was Sasha's idea to die. She chose the one person. She thought that would be enough, but instead it was the distraction the group needed, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Also in this episode, Michonne had a super close call fighting that scavenger. Like, Michonne got her ass kicked. And I don't know that we've ever seen Michonne really get taken down in that way.
Yeah, and I don't think we've ever had to worry about Michonne. Like, Michonne's always been this badass character. You just never went into an episode worried that Michonne was gonna die. I don't know, it just never crossed my mind, at least. And I was a little nervous. Like, I was fairly sure she wasn't gonna die, but I was nervous.
I was a little nervous, and then when we heard that scream, and it seemed like, well, Rick definitely thought Michonne was dead.
Yeah.
In that moment, we're like, okay, well, Michonne's not dead.
Yeah.
There's no way she dies off screen.
Yeah, no.
So in that moment, you know, basically Michonne's safe. But then when we see her again, she's been beaten to a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
And that's just a condition that we've really never seen Michonne in.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to talk about for this episode is it did two things that I would have liked to have seen done earlier, but the way they actually did it, I'm pretty happy with. And that is giving Glenn and Abraham something of a farewell.
Yeah.
Sasha's flashbacks with Abraham, that was basically a nice little goodbye for Abraham. And then Maggie's denouement at the end of the episode.
With then the close-up on the pocket watch.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it was her, yeah. And that was like probably the most touching scene from The Walking Dead, for me anyway.
In quite a long time.
Yeah, in quite a long time.
And just
anyway.
that voiceover, that monologue, just saying that, you know, it all started with Glenn. He saved a person he didn't know, and from then that was the catalyst of this group of strangers who wouldn't have looked at each other twice on a sidewalk before the fall. Now they're family, and it's all because of Glenn.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a fantastic goodbye to that character, and it's something that I would have liked to seen sooner.
Yeah.
But there was really no place to fit that in. I don't think it would have been appropriate anywhere else in this season, and the fact that they did it, and they did it so well in the finale, I'm really happy about that. This episode, like I said at the beginning of the video, if there was ever an episode of The Walking Dead that they had to stick the landing, it was this one, because after the cliffhanger last season, season 6,
and the premiere this season,
this episode, or this season, had a very uphill battle.
Yeah.
And then the last 3 episodes before this, basically the back half of the season was excellent.
Yeah.
And it really needed to be, because I think the fans were starting to become a little diluted. You know, the constant hopelessness that we've gotten throughout this season, I think it was starting to wear thin on fans, and the fact that the last half of the second half of the season, I think it won me back. I am all about The Walking Dead again, and I was damn near ready to give up.
Yeah. I know, I was right there with them. Like, I was like, do we really even want to watch the show anymore?
I do now.
I'm
Jazzed
excited
for season 8.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next season now.
Oh, and there is actually one more thing that we do want to talk about, and that is the Scavengers. It looks like they took way more casualties than the Saviors did.
Yes.
And we've seen, you know, some scuttlebutt about maybe the Scavengers are the Whisperers. And if that's the case, I think they've set it up pretty well. It makes sense.
Yes.
Because if they've taken a lot of casualties, it would make sense for them to kind of go into hiding and disappear for a while, and then return later with larger numbers, kind of like Tusken Raiders. And I do think that's all we have for this video. If you have anything to add, if we missed anything, please let us know down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please tell us by dropping a like on it, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video on Facebook or Twitter.
And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.